Too Many Hats podcast with your hosts with the most, Tony and Lavelle, every morning from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. We also have Queen Watkins with Clock That He. Tune in with us and have a great time. Let's talk about it right here. Too Many Hats podcast.
Top of the morning to you, my good people. Happy Tuesday. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, as Mr. Rogers would say. It's your host with the most, Tony Mays, Lavelle Salter. What it do, my guy?
Top of the morning, Doc. Good morning. Good morning.
Yes, sir. Man, we got another doozy today. This one's finna get real interesting today because yesterday, we kind of really dove deep in Lavelle talking about sex and intimacy in relationships and marriages, man. And so today, I just really wanted to just kind of extend it, a little further and add a little bit more onto it. Last week when Marcus was supposed to be joining us, maybe he'll still join us. He may be running late, I don't know. But last week when he and I talked, and the same subject kind of came up about intimacy, sex, and also like poly relationships. And he mentioned the Bible characters and and how that a lot of people in the Bible had figures had wives. Multiple wives and concubines, or just multiple concubines. And so I don't know what happened, but it went away. So it was one of those things where he wasn't really trying to justify polygamous relationships, I don't believe, but I think there was some question around it and how they did it in the Bible. But I think even in the Bible, like, I don't think it was necessarily a great thing just because people did it in the Bible.
Right.
And I don't think that it came even without conflict for those men who had multiple wives and concubines. If you think about Abraham and Sarah and Hagar, that was conflict. You know what I'm saying? So I think like I told you yesterday, I don't know how it's hard to really figure out one woman and understand and learn one woman, man. How you gonna do it with 2, 3, or 4?
I don't know.
Or in the case of Solomon, 700 plus 300, 1,000. Ain't no way, bro. 1,000 women? What? I'm like, how do you please 1,000 women, bro?
You can't.
What kind of dome you gotta have? What kind of dome and stamina you gotta have to please 1,000 women?
Well, I don't even think there was a biblical purpose for that. Them, like I said yesterday, them marrying multiple wives. I don't think that was for as far as intimacy and things like that. They had more so to do with demographic things, as far as like the marrying into the family, making allegiance to different countries and stuff like that. Because there's no way for that to even to be applicable or really happen. That's why you got to really read the context and the culture of why that was happening.
So you think you think Solomon made alliances with 1,000 countries and got women from 1,000 countries, or did he just see she fine? I want her. I want her to be one of my wives.
He had to be like that because ain't no way in the world. I mean, because just think, if it was the beginning of the world or beginning of time or whatever, I mean, I don't know, because I mean you got to really dig into the context and culture of why that was really happening. You know what I'm saying? Because I guess my thing is, you know, how was that even determined as to how the woman looked or how you desired her in that particular time?
So let's kind of let's examine it, man. Several figures in the Bible are recorded to have multiple wives and concubines, most
Mhm.
notably Abram, Jacob, David, Solomon. While the practice of polygamy and concubinage is present in the Old Testament, the New Testament emphasizes marriage as a union between one man and one woman. I mentioned this the other day while Marcus and I was talking, right? I said,
Mhm.
Marcus, I said, the Old Testament, they did a lot of stuff in the Old Testament, but when Jesus came, Jesus said, I come not to destroy the law, but to fulfill the law.
Mhm.
And so when Jesus came, he's supposed to make things better than they was.
Right.
So, and in the New Testament, where do you see anywhere really in the New Testament where they talk about they had multiple wives or concubines?
You don't.
So when I think of a polygamy type relationship, I don't know. I can't. It's hard for me to get with it.
Mhm.
And I think that from a moral standard, from a morality piece, my morality won't allow me to.
Mhm.
I guess that's the best way I can put it. Now, some people will argue that yes, you can't tell people who to love.
Mhm.
Okay, okay. If Lavelle want to love 5 women, he should be able to love 5 women. You shouldn't be able to tell Lavelle that he should only love one woman. Okay. If Lavelle want to love 5 women, I mean, again, I think it'd be very. I think that's gonna satisfy Lavelle. But what about the 5 women? Because again, we just said it's hard to really understand one woman and how to navigate through one woman in life. How do you navigate through 5 women and all 5 women get time, intimacy, sex? How does that even happen?
Well, you heard
Yes.
I went to my trusty AI. It says, here are some explanations as to why this happened in the Bible. It says, social norms. Polygamy was a common practice in ancient Near Eastern societies, and it was not uncommon for powerful figures, especially those with political or economic influence, to have multiple wives. It says desire for male heirs. In the Old Testament, having male heirs was seen as crucial for preserving family lineage and property. If a wife was barren or had only daughters, a man might take other wives to ensure he had sons.
Okay. So that again, that makes sense from that period in that
Mhm.
period because even in Africa and some cultures in Africa today, if you're wealthy, you can have multiple wives if you can afford multiple wives,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And you just read the same thing, that if they were of a certain, you know, upper echelon,
Right.
they had money, they
Mm-hmm.
could get multiple wives based on that, because the fathers of one household may say, boy, if I can marry my daughter off to his son, we can join in some of that wealth. We can add out now, and they did that. They promised their daughters to other wealthy men
Mm-hmm.
that may have already had a wife,
Yep.
and just so they can benefit or reap the benefits.
It segues into the next point. It says economic benefits. A larger family could mean more labor for tasks like agriculture, trade, or crafts. Having multiple wives also contribute to a large workforce and potentially increase in the family's wealth.
Okay, so when I look at that, I think about, you remember the show where we talked about the black guy that had married the two women, and it was strictly
Mhm.
for business purposes. They was running businesses.
Right.
He married one lady, and she was real business smart. She was running one of his businesses, operating boom. It was more like a partnership. And then
Mm-hmm.
he said she brought the other lady into the thing and said, hey, she's sharp, she boom, boom, boom. She can run this business for us.
Mm-hmm.
So I get that part.
Right.
Because we talked about the different reasons people get married and all that, and they get married for a business, partnership. So it may not necessarily be a sexual thing. It's just like, at least if we married, I could trust you with the bag, so to speak.
Right.
You ain't got to run off with the bag because you over the bag.
Right. Next point is God's perspective. While I can't talk. Polygamy was practiced by some figures in the Old Testament. It was not presented as God's intended norm for marriage. The New Testament and later Christian teachings generally emphasize monogamy as the ideal marriage relationship. Concubinage, I didn't even know that was a word. So the practice of concubinage, where a man had multiple women in secondary relationship, was also common. This practice
Yes.
was sometimes seen as a way to have more children, particularly male heirs, or to address a barren wife's inability to bear children.
So here are some examples of some of the biblical figures with multiple wives and concubines. I think Mark is on here. Hold on.
Okay.
Yeah. Man, I ain't even see you down there, bro.
I've been here for a minute.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Lavelle, Tony. How y'all doing? Go ahead.
Good morning. So let me just bag up a little bit. So we've been sitting here talking about, we're doing part 2 without intimacy and sex and relationships or marriage. So I told you we were going to kind of expound on that a little bit today and try to really throw another mix in with polygamy and concubine. And so we've been talking about biblical characters in the Bible that had multiple wives and the meaning or the representation behind why some of them had so many wives. And Lavelle just kind of read that, they had wives for, multiple wives or multiple concubines for different reasons, whether it would be to expand, their family, maybe they had a barren wife that couldn't bear them kids. And, of course, sons were very important back then, to keep that heritage going. So they would try to have, they would have more, try to have more wives so they can have more sons, So that was a reason. But so I just threw up some examples of some biblical figures with multiple wives and concubines, and I just this is kind of crazy to me. They talked about Abraham. He said it indicates that Abraham had multiple wives, including Sarah, Hagar, and Keturah. And I even mentioned at the beginning of this that so a lot of them had multiple wives and concubines, but it didn't come without conflict. And the first thing I mentioned was Sarah and Hagar, that conflict, because, Sarah was a little hot. I'm like, no, you need to send her away. So even the idea of having multiple wives or multiple partners in a relationship for me is like yesterday we was talking about, and I was like, how in the heck? It's hard, Marcus Lavelle, to learn one woman and understand everything about one woman. Hell, you gonna throw 3 more in the mix? Like,
Can I play
how?
devil's advocate today?
Yeah, of course.
Can I
Let's
just
roll.
just for thought? As I was reading the scripture in the New Testament, because I know you were comparing Old Testament and New Testament. I see a lot of these individuals on here are Old Testament.
Yeah.
Now, what you guys think of where it says it was talking about elders in the church? And it says, I'm going to just read over in Titus 1. It says in 5, it says, for this reason I left you in Crete, that you should set in order the things that are lacking and appoint elders in every city as I commanded you. If a man is blameless, the husband of one wife, having faithful children, not accused of dissipation or insubordination, for a bishop must be blameless as a steward of God, not self-willed, not quick-tempered, not given to wine, not violent, or not greedy for money, but hospitable and a lover of what is good. And it goes on and on. But it emphasizes a husband of one wife. I'm just curious, why do you think it says that over there in Titus?
Well,
well,
for one, they was talking. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, for one, they was talking about, the preacher, the head of the church, a preacher, right? And and as I told you last week, Mark, I said the Old Testament, they did stuff in the Old Testament that we don't see in the New Testament, because when Jesus came, he said, I ain't come to destroy the law, I come to fulfill the law.
Mm-hmm.
And he came to make things better. So, I don't want to say supposedly, because that's what he did. He made things better, So he took all those sins from the Old Testament, from the New Testament, from 2025, put him on his shoulder and took him to the cross.
So you're saying that what they did in the Old Testament is a sin?
I know. I say he took sin. I said I didn't say what they did was a sin. It don't necessarily say that was. I mean, and you look at this. David was a man after God's own heart, and had multiple wives, and several concubines. So I don't think, and I don't necessarily see anywhere where back then that was considered a sin necessarily.
Right. I brought that up because of the context in which he was given as far as.
No, I was just saying how Jesus came to, he's supposed to make stuff better. He just took the sins of the world. Now, I say even 2025. I said the New Testament, Old Testament, all the stuff that people did that was sin. He took it and put it on his shoulders and took it to the cross. So when I see that, I'm looking at like, okay, if he came to make stuff better, and it begins in the New Testament to talk about, and then you can even go back to the Garden of Eden, when he said it is not good for man to be alone. He didn't cause Adam to go to sleep and take 2 ribs and create 2 women. Right? Now, if he had did that, we would have a hell of an argument. We say, hey, he created 2 women for Adam. We need at least 2 women.
I mean, ribs Adam have.
Yeah, I'm glad.
I'm saying he could have pulled all of them, but I'm saying, why just create 1?
Right. I'm glad Marcus brought this up, using this particular context out of the New Testament, because what it tells me is, if you look at it in the light of the scripture, you can see it as that this was permissible in the Old Testament for not for intimacy per se, but it was allowed for procreation, if you will. And like we said earlier, economic status and stuff like that. So that let us know that it had nothing to do with marriage as we know it in a Western culture world. You know what I'm saying? Like we say, one wife. You supposed to be faithful to that one person. I don't think it was a thing of come on in here, girl, let's get it on, and then you leave out. Come on in here, girl, get the other girl. It wasn't like that.
I like what Lavelle just said too. That's a great reasoning about procreation. But then you can kind of argue the point too, is like, why didn't he give Adam multiple wives at the moment? You know what I mean?
And he said be fruitful and multiply, right? And so if he says be fruitful and multiply, and then you get with a wife and she's barren, how do you multiply?
Right.
Now, I brought that scripture out for a reason, because when I read that scripture, it's emphasized every time you research wives, it's always tied to elders and priests and the leaders of the church. And it seems like when it's talking about that, it was emphasizing those having to have a focus of the church as their forefront. And you can't have that focus when you got multiple wives. You know what I'm saying?
It's going to be chaotic.
A whole lot of time.
It's going to be chaotic, and it's going to be, confusion. And if God is not the author of confusion, he ain't going to create no chaos in your church.
Come on.
Well, but here's another argument. In cultures, like we mentioned Africa earlier, I was
just going to read something about Africa. Go ahead.
Yeah. They have different religions and sects and cults and stuff over there. And even though it may still be wrong in the eyes of someone, it's permissible in that particular culture because of it's been respected throughout the years. So you can't even argue the fact of, hey, that's wrong, because it is what it is to them anyway.
Right.
That's just like, you got people over there, like I was talking to my neighbor across the street. He said that one of those the presidents over there in one of those cities in Africa, where the president is a Muslim, but his wife is a Christian, but they respect each other's religion and set of thought, and they be living in the same home, and that whole type of thing. So it's all about perspective at this particular point.
Yeah. It says when an African tribal chief converts to Christianity, what happens to all his wives? Should he divorce them and send them back to their parents' home in shame and penury? Or should he live away from them in a separate house, but continue to provide for them financially? This is the classic problem for missionaries in countries that practice polygamy, and one to which there is no easy answer. Just to hope that the next generation will marry only one wife. It must seem very strange for those polygamous families when their normal, socially acceptable lifestyle is suddenly regarded as immoral. Look at this. Yeah, look at this.
Oh,
this was the Jews' perception. The Jews who Jesus lived among, had the same problem. They had the same problem. Polygamy had been considered perfectly normal and proper until the Romans took over it and said it was disgusting and immoral. And who was back there running Rome?
Caesar.
Who runs Rome now? The Pope.
Well, they didn't like women at all. So never mind.
Well, I'm saying the Pope. And so the Pope, it's disgusting. So anyway, the Romans took it over and said it was disgusting and immoral. The Romans allowed Jews to continue practicing polygamy in Palestine, but elsewhere in the empire, monogamy was strictly enforced. Many Jews living outside of Palestine therefore got used to the principle of one wife, and it seemed natural to them. By Jesus' time, many Jews had come to agree with the Roman view, and polygamy fell out of practice during other generations, although the Jews did not actually outlaw polygamy until the 11th century. So listen to this. Like, this was a normal practice, right? For centuries.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Jews came in. I mean, yeah, the Roman church came in and said, nah, that's disgusting. That's immoral. And outlawed it. Except for in Palestine.
This is interesting.
Listen, now Palestine said, we don't want to be the only folk doing this. It make us look bad. So we gonna start following it too. So by the time Jesus came on the scene, it was kind of normal to just have one wife. So nowhere does it say. Now it's a more that it talks about how Jesus felt. I'm interested to I didn't purposely read through it because I wanted to read it with y'all.
Right. But let's look at the etymology of this word polygamy and see what it really means. The word poly, of course, we know means many.
I was waiting on you to come with the etymology, bro. I was waiting on you to come with the etymology.
And
I want to hear this though.
And the latter part of it says gemet, which means marriage. So if you break that down, it wasn't the fact of that you had multiple women, you had multiple marriages.
Mm-hmm.
So because we got to think about marriage can be a contract and not a covenant. So these wasn't covenants; these were contracts. Because we did the things some months back when we did the thing on why people marry each other, and some of them had to do with love. So you just look at this right here. These particular marriages had nothing to do with I love this woman, I adore these women. In other words, this all had to be all was contractual, if you will.
Yeah, well, we always talk about, like, a lot of time, even hell, if you go back and talk to some of these elderly people, they'll tell you my grandmother's marriage was arranged to my granddaddy.
Yep.
It didn't have nothing to do with
marriage.
It didn't have nothing to do with love. Most of the marriages was arranged back in that day. And even, because my grandmother was young, she was underage. So she had to have permission to marry my grandfather because he was twice her age, 3 times her age.
Right.
So, I definitely don't think a lot of people got married for love back then. Matter of fact, I was looking at a video where a guy said, he said, how many times? He said, most women don't really marry the dude that they really want to marry. And I said, what? I said, wait a minute. They don't marry the dude they want to marry. So I said, this is interesting. Okay, I'm tuning in now. He said, yeah. He said, most women don't marry the man. He said, the man they really want to marry is the dude that they'll cheat with. He said that the man that they married is the safe dude, the dude that they know he gonna provide for them, protect for them, all that. Cause he said, how many times have y'all? And it makes sense. Listen to this. How many times have you heard a woman say, I didn't like so and so. He just grew on me. He grew on me over time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck? And so I said, so in my head, I started to think about all the times I done heard, yeah, when I first met him, he just grew on me. And I said, dang. You know how many people out here in relationship where it just grew on them? Marriages. Been married 30 years, he grew on me.
So Tony, so let me ask you this. So you saying that when the Old Testament, I think Lavelle asked this question, but Old Testament, when they talked about multiple marriage, you saying, was that a sin? Are you saying that was a sin?
No.
Okay. So if they carried it over to the New Testament, it's a sin?
No.
Okay.
I don't see anywhere in there where they said it was a sin.
Okay.
I said it was the Jews, the Roman Church just came along and said that it was immoral and unethical, and that it was disgusting.
Now, and we want to be clear, because like I like what Lavelle said too about it's a contract. Now, the things that people are doing, because he said also too in that New Testament, he says you marry except you burn. If you can't control it, you need to get married.
Yeah.
So, that's a whole other area right there. When you just
so let me ask you, what is the Old Testament for? What is the New Testament for?
The New Testament fulfilled the law.
Rebuke, and reproof.
Mm-hmm.
So rebuke and reproof. So if I felt like that having a polygamous relationship or being in a poly marriage or having concubines and all that, if I felt like, for me, like I just said earlier, I said for me, it's just like from a moral standpoint, I don't see it morally from my own. I don't feel like it's morally correct for me. Now, Lavelle may feel like I don't see nothing wrong with it if that's what they want to do. So that don't affect his moral. Now, I would use Lavelle because I don't want, me and Lavelle can throw each other that way like that. But if Lavelle feels that way, then that don't bother him morally. It's not immoral to him. There's some things that may be immoral to me that bother you might find morally superb.
Yeah. I think that if they was to change the laws and allow people to marry multiple people, you'll see a whole lot more marriages in the United States and places like that.
I heard somewhere yesterday somebody posted this.
Let me preface this, because it's not just, I feel like if there's some people that's full of wealth, that got a lot of money out here that can take care of multiple people. You know what I mean? And they can, and some women that would gladly get married to them as a second, third, or fourth wife, and will hold that position as a second, third, or fourth wife, just because they want to be protected, provided for. They want those things. So I think if they did open it, I think people would step out there and they would have multiple marriages. But because it's illegal, they don't do it.
Believe it or not, y'all, it's a lot of people who like the idea of polygamy. A lot of folks. I don't know if y'all saw the interview on the Breakfast Club with Ayanna, where she talked about polygamy. She said her ex-husband prior to her marrying him was in a polygamous relationship. So he had came out of a polygamous relationship, and so they asked her, "So would you do it now?" She said, "Yeah." She said, "I would now." She said, and they said, "You serious?" And she said, "Yeah." She said, "Because," she said, "when I was young," she said, "I wouldn't have did it when I was young." She said, "Because cheating to me was the worst of the worst." But she said, if we had an understanding and we talked about that prior to, and you went out there and did it because I said it was okay, then that wasn't cheating. She said cheating is when you're sneaking around or you don't allow or you're not in agreement with what the person is doing. And so she said, "I would do it now." And they were like, "Are you serious?" She said, "Yeah." She said, "Because I'm old." She said, "When I was young, I didn't really know who I was as a person." She said, "But now I know myself. I understand myself." And she said, "Who am I to tell this man that he can only love one person?" That's where they came from. She said, "Who am I to tell him?" She said, if he loves two people, she said, "I'm perfectly okay with it." She said, he over there with her, he's spending a little time. She said, "I'm 70. if he want to go over there and hump up and down all day long on that 40-year-old, then he come spend some time with me. Hey, that's fine. But baby, he can do all that. She can do all that. And so I
Because my
thought that
thing
was
is,
pretty damn interesting for her to even make the comment. I was like, so y'all know I shot straight to the comments, Lavelle. To the comments. And I'm talking about thousands upon thousands upon thousands of comments where people were saying, I'm talking about women, not men. Women were saying, about time you open your eyes and others. I'm saying, what the? And that at that point, that's when I really realized that it's a lot of people that's for polygamous relationships. I'm talking about women. It ain't just men.
It's
I guess
the,
my thing is, her based upon what she's saying, being 70 and understanding better now. I guess my only thing is it pertains to the sexuality part of that. That would be damn near scary to do, because if you already out here doing your thing and then you all of a sudden say, hey, we can have multiple wives, somebody gonna come up and be having the nasty woman disease.
But I think if you're sensible about entering into a polygamous type relationship or multiple partners, I think if you're serious about it, I think this is when you say, hey, this is the agreement we have. Like Neo. Neo talks about his agreements. This man got paperwork on his 4, 5, how many women he got? He got paperwork. And so he got, like Lavelle said, he got an agreement, a contractual agreement, a covenant that he got between them and them women. Right? And so if you have an agreement or a contract or whatever, and you okay with it, I mean, I still just don't see how you please all these women. But I mean, I just like, I ain't with it. But if the next person want to be with it, that's on them. I ain't like.
My thing is too, y'all, is that if that person, this is my mindset, I could be wrong. If that person thinks like that and wants to move like that, 9 times out of 10, depending on the individual, they didn't have no integrity in their other relationships. They was already out there.
I ain't gonna say that, because
have you guys heard of Ayana, that therapist Ayana?
Right.
Anzant?
Yeah.
She believes in that. She teaches it. She's like, I'm an older woman. If you want to go do some things, as long as he's not technically cheating, meaning not disclosing things to her.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, she was fine with that.
Yeah, exactly.
He can go over there, do his thing, and come on back.
Yeah, do it. Yeah. So, her idea of it was that this person got their own house over here. Like, we ain't in the same house, but she got their house over here. So you go over there, do your thing, then you come over here. But it's not cheating now, because first of all, she understands, and it's been disclosed to her. So what I was going with earlier is when Lavelle talking about bringing the nasty disease, if you serious about it, at some point, even a woman like Ayana, she probably said, we all going to get tested, because I don't want you going over here or sleeping over here. And then, so we're going to make sure we all tested, we good. And so I would think if you're going to enter into a polygamy type relationship, that y'all want to make sure everybody's straight. Because that's a lot of swapping. That's a lot of swapping fluids.
Listen, this is my question, y'all, as well. And I was thinking about this morning before I got on this show. So my thing is this, because we all gonna get older, of course, and we're getting older. So do we treasure the poom poom, as a queen would say, or do we treasure the woman? Even though
why was there a pause?
I think, because I wanted to give that some thought. I didn't want to just react. I wanted to respond.
Because my thing is, I mean, if that's all it's about, that means it's a woman is just an object.
Well, think about what I said yesterday, Lavelle. That there comes a point in time when you got people that's been married, they 70, 80 years old, been married 40, 45 years. The sex might not be like that ain't important to them. They like, man, we been in for 45. Like that ain't necessarily important for us.
Mhm.
So, and I do think that you should treasure the woman. Y'all should treasure each other. Like if she shouldn't just be the treasure, y'all should treasure each other.
Right.
And that's why you see, have y'all ever seen an older person, right? They've been together a long time, and then the male or the woman expires.
Mhm.
Right after that, the partner dies.
Right.
Because it's like
Mhm.
I can't live without this person.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Strong
I can't
connection.
live without this person. I'm talking about within a week, 2 weeks of the person one dying, the other one died. Because they so heartbroken and saying, I can't do this without this person. I don't even want to live my life. So they literally just give up the ghost, so to speak. You know.
Yeah, I mean,
So
you've been with Monica over 30 years. I've been with Dawn over 20 years. I can't see my life without her. She can get hurt and we can't be sexually, together anymore. I still don't want to go nowhere because it's the spiritual part of who we are now. Because
if the
I'm just being
sex, if
honest.
we can't, if something happened where we can't have sex anymore, I ain't running out the door, bro. Like it's I'm gonna have to if it's on her, I'm gonna have to get that lotion.
Come on,
You gonna be Deion Sanders?
Man, yeah, shit, man. I mean,
No, I've been married 20, going on 25, so I know what you mean. You
yeah,
build together.
yeah. It's tough. Like,
It's hard
and
to.
I'm talking about. I ain't talking about like y'all having issues. She said
Right.
that hawk too, along with that mouth work.
None of that
Hawk
person
two,
knows
baby.
that person knows your heartbeat. They know how you. They know how you. They understand your makeup. They understand what you like and what you don't like. And this to try to start all over and just up and leave and say because of that. No, that's crazy to me.
That's why I always say the people can't look at me crazy. I was like, man, if something ever happened, like well, we for some reason we split up, divorce or something like that, bro, I ain't doing it again because I can't even imagine going through that entire process again and trying to understand, learn somebody. Like I'd rather just be over here and just,
I was just
leave.
saying, bro.
Yeah, like I definitely would never be in another serious relationship. Like I guess I'd just be whatever because I couldn't do it.
I think we say that, but you never know what God will send you. After.
Yeah, he gonna have to definitely send it. He gonna have to drop it from above.
You know what we need.
Yeah.
But I feel you though. We put some time in.
Yeah, it's hard, bro. Like, and then the older you get, Marcus, you get in your ways. You because you didn't did a lot of growing, a lot of growth, and then all of a sudden you with a person or a person comes your way who you say I really like, but then you start to look at this person's ways and you're like, this person ain't really grown to that level. And so now I gotta go back and go through this whole growth process with you again. And oh no.
Let me drop the bomb on y'all. The marriage vows don't say nothing about sex.
No, I think that's a carnal, fleshly thing.
No, but I'm saying though, but I'm just saying, if I ain't saying that it's not important, but I believe that it was deemed that important. Whoever the person who wrote the vow, and it's probably a backdrop to that, of course. But
okay, we talked about that, Lavelle. When the vows were created, we said who created marriage vow? We went back to the 15th century, I think. You remember?
Yeah.
Those vows were created by a person.
Yeah, that's true.
So those wasn't vows given. Those vows were created by a person.
That's deep.
Right, so I'm just throwing it out there, though. I'm just saying.
Does it kind of hint at husband of wife? Don't it?
I'm here.
It kind of hints at that, don't it? You know, like when it says husband of one wife, forsaking all others.
Kind of, sort of, yeah. But
Yeah.
It says traditional westernized marriage vows as seen in the first edition of the Book of Common Prayer. So it really came from the background from a book of prayer, and the person was translated into English by an archbishop.
oh wow.
So check this out. It says traditional westernized marriage vows seen in the first edition of the Book of Common Prayer were created in 1549. While elements of the vows are rooted in older medieval practices,
Dang.
the former version translated into English by Thomas Cranmer, Archbishop of Canterbury, marks a significant point in their evolution. Specifically, the Sarum Rite, a medieval Catholic liturgy, served as a basis for these vows. Cranmer adapted it for the Protestant Church of England. So when you talk about these are supposedly men of faith, right? That created these wedding vows. So they ain't gonna talk about sex in the marriage vows per se. They ain't gonna say make sure you just have sex with your wife. But the Bible says, that we should be forsaking each other, providing that for each other unless agreed upon a time. So, sex is important in a relationship. I don't care what you say. And a marriage, sex and intimacy.
Yes.
Monica says, seriously though, it's got to be about more than about the cuckoo and the ding dong.
Is it cupcakes?
and I do think it is more about it, but I think that is an essential element to the relationship.
You know, on Friday, Tony, when I was on this podcast with you, and we were talking about culture, and we were talking about not only culture but also too about how men are biologically able to do certain things that women can't. Meaning, like populated city, women can they can only have a child every 9-10 months, and just the physical makeups of man. And that's the part I just wanted women to be aware of, about how important making love and having sex and the intimacy is for the man, is because a man is biologically wired to be able to produce. You know what I mean? How many sperm cells, how many actual sperm come out the man? You know what I mean? And how many eggs that it had to get to? That's a whole lot that's in there. And we were talking about how important it is for women just to understand in our own relationships, that one relationship, making sure you understand how important it is to make sure that man has his release and that he's empty and those things. Because even in the Old Testament, we talk about all these wives, these men was able to do some things with these wives.
Yeah.
Because they can go from one night to the other night. The woman, if she get pregnant, she can't do anything. I know a lot of women probably mad at that statement or that comment, but it is what it is. It just that's the importance.
I'm gonna bring this out, and I don't know why this always comes up when we talk about this, but I always use The Color Purple for instance. For one, to look at Whoopi Goldberg was much younger than Mister, but he married the young girl simply because he wanted to use her how he wanted to use her. Yeah. But there was no love in that at all.
Cook, clean, jump up and down on her. He just wanted to. She was extra labor for him to get his rocks out. He didn't love her. He was in love with Suge.
You know what I'm saying? So I just use it for instance because this is another segue to that, because I think sometimes we can be so dogmatic, if you will, because I've heard of where people are in marriages and they're literally, for the sake of using this word, well, they're not in sex in your marriage should be consensual. But you have people who are literally marrying, and you almost have to rape your wife. Are raping their wife.
Like Whoopi in Color Purple. Matter of fact, what Suge say to her? You still a virgin.
You see what I'm saying?
You don't know what it's like to have a real relationship.
My thing was, that's why I believe that, the bonding, the intimacy part, it's one thing to get your rocks off, but are we bonding? Are we loving on each other? Do we really care about what we're doing? And it's a difference in go ahead and get your rocks off and then really bonding with each other. Like you talked about the person, sometimes you just want to go ahead and knock that thing off. That's something totally different. But at the same time, when do that part come to where you really get to intimacy, like Mel say, intimacy, you get to know each other. You know what I'm saying? The part when you're not actually, where it's penetration, so to speak. I just think that's very important in a marriage, Yeah,
well, and I think when we talked about it yesterday too, Lavelle, when we talked about intimacy, I think it was Joseph. Joseph asked a question. He said, why, what if your wife doesn't know
how to be intimate?
What her intimacy is?
Love language.
Yeah. And I said, how in the world did y'all even get married when you don't, like, how do you marry a person that you don't know what her intimacy language or love language or what that is? Like, how do you even, because whether you understand that that's intimacy or not, you should know, like organized connection, like Lavelle was saying yesterday. He said, Don and I, we when we met, we just used to play video games all the time. We connected them. People like, you play video games with your wife? People like, yeah, that's our thing. That's a connection. That's an intimate moment. Mark and I, our thing is movies. We sit there, lay in the bed, watch movies. She want to hold my hand, lay up on. That's intimacy. We ain't got to do it. We know we finna get some after this. No, that's that connection that you have. And when he asked that question, I was a little lost because I'm like, how do you even get married?
Yeah, that don't make sense. That don't make sense.
For one, and this is another segue. I think a lot of times is when we have marriage counseling, for whatever reason, we always go to a pastor. I ain't saying nothing wrong with pastors, but 9 times out of 10, they're gonna be kind of, walking on eggshells, so to speak. I believe that there should be, when you counsel with somebody, they should be able to open up everything what's happening. Like, girl, are you freaky? Do you like this in the third? You know what I'm saying? Really edging the thing on.
I think that's that old school pastoral counseling. I think the new school counseling and the ones, the pastors and stuff that's real, they really understand and that's why it's kind of hard. If you don't have a pastor that's married or been married for any length of time, I don't necessarily know how that person can really be able to counsel you correctly.
Yeah.
I sit down with a couple right now, because I've sat down with couples and talked to couples and just off of experience and saying, don't do this, get some grace, make sure you blah, blah, blah. And they came back and like, man, we really appreciate that because that helped us, man, because now we can talk about it. And I understand, not to get so mad at him, just give him a little grace and let him grow. But these are things that you would normally get in a normal marriage. Well, you got to love her even if she, ain't anybody trying to hear that.
And I think Christianity just watered down a lot of stuff when it comes to love making and stuff like that. Because you ain't finna turn on no Amazing Grace and you and your boo finna get on. You ain't finna.
Only thing they gonna tell me is just keep folk out your business. Everybody know that. You should know about now. Keep folk out your business.
You said something too, Tony, about that man. I just wanted to say this about the man that you said he didn't know his wife's love language, and it made me think about what.
But he didn't say. Let me correct you. He didn't say he didn't know her. He said she don't know what her intimacy language is. And I said, how?
So he still don't know it at the end of the day, because you should
Exactly.
know the person that you with. You should know if I touch them, how they react.
Yeah.
If I say certain things to them, words of affirmation, how they react. But the thing is that he said when Adam, it made me think about this. When Adam, it says when he saw Eve and he went into Eve and he said, and he knew her.
He knew her.
He knew her. It's a whole lot in that.
I like you so much, Doc. That's me, man. Come on, Doc.
Come on. When you know her, that's a whole nother level. You find out it's not that know her ain't just about sex. You know her. He made it.
That's a connection.
Yeah.
Miguel say this all the time. He said this all the time. He said, when you around here dipping and dabbing in everybody, that's a spiritual connection that you just you putting it out there everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You just so whether you believe it or not, there's still some connection to that part where you done moved on, went on. There's a connection because you imparting all of this everywhere you go. You sticking it. David says, in my counseling session, we have several segments. We get down and talked about it all. Open up, let's talk. And that's where it should be.
Yep.
Like that counseling session shouldn't be just me sharing with you how y'all relationship be. I want to hear, like, hey, from her, what do you think intimacy is from him? And he might tell me what intimacy is. Man, when we get in that bedroom, Doc, and I'm gonna say, intimacy starts way before you get in that bedroom.
The other thing is that Christianity has made sex, just church, I would say this. I ain't gonna say just Christianity by itself, but we've made it be dirty. We made it be a dirty word. I mean, like it's taboo that we shouldn't talk about it. Just like we say on the podcast. I just think sometimes you got to have these hard conversations and talk about things as it pertains to life. One time, Pastor Jimmison said, "Sex is life, and life is sex." That's how you got here.
Pastor Jimmison.
But you should. That's why you see so many marriages in the church. It's like 50% of them fail because I don't think they've been taught right. How do you gonna please him? Like the stuff we're talking about today, that's stuff they need to be talking about in the church.
Hey man, I was watching the show, and it was a live podcast, and they were in a church, and they had couples on the stage, and they were talking about, and they said, Miss So-and-so, how you been kept your husband for all these years?
I saw that.
She walked over there, she said, suck his dick.
Yeah. I saw that.
She called herself whispering, and that thing and went out, boy, everybody fell out on the stage.
Somebody was taking notes.
But that's she telling you, look, I know what my man like.
Yeah.
Chop that more than wood.
Oh my God, man! Look, well, I love it when I get y'all on here together, bro. Like I love this, bro. Like this, because it goes. Man, we might need to do a part 3 tomorrow because there's still so much. It's so much I ain't even touched on that I got pulled up.
Me too.
Yeah.
Let me clock the tea right quick, and then we gonna run. Can we run this back tomorrow?
We can run over a little bit if y'all want to. I ain't got nothing to do.
I gotta get away.
I do. I got to do.
We're gonna run this back tomorrow. Let me clock this tea though.
All right.
Good morning. Y'all know what time it is. Put them phones down, fingers up. It's time to clock that tea with your girl, Queen. I hope y'all having an amazing morning. But y'all know what time it is. It's time to clock that tea. Have y'all heard of the story of the niece that got pregnant by the auntie? And then she told all the business on Christmas Day. Let's talk about it. So, y'all, on Jesus' birthday, the niece decided to let everybody know who she was really pregnant by, right? But before we get there, everybody was at the Christmas dinner. Mind you, her auntie, which is Sarah, her name is Sarah, she was married to a guy named Alex. And the niece name, what was that girl name? Amber. There we go. So they're all at the family event. And the auntie and the niece didn't have the best relationship anyway. But the niece was telling everybody that she had a one night stand. She ended up getting pregnant and she don't know who the dad is. That was her story, and she was sticking to it until auntie had too many drinks, and she want to come for her niece and tell her, that's why you don't know who your baby daddy is. That's a shame that you don't know who your baby daddy is. It's like she was talking down on her. So she responded with my baby daddy is your husband. Yeah, close your mouth. Flies might get in. So the auntie like, what? She's telling old boy to explain himself, because what is she talking about? So at this point, Amber is upset. She's 6 months pregnant. She goes outside. So when Sarah comes, the auntie, she comes outside and she sees that Alex, her husband, is outside talking to Amber. And she's still trying to figure out what's going on. Like, are you serious? You pregnant by my niece? You got my niece pregnant? So Alex was like, you know what? Yeah, she is pregnant by me. So auntie, think. He said, she got on him, right? So let's start here. Auntie a cougar. So she was dating a younger guy anyway, right? I guess she can't get on this her age. I don't know. But anyway, she was dating a younger guy. So auntie went out there banking his ass for real. So he was like, you know what? Now that you're doing all that, I just want to let you know you will be soon divorced. I got the papers in the car. You want to sign them? The family had to come outside and get old girl off of him. Mind you, Amber is 6 months pregnant, so she shouldn't be in the middle of this mess anyway. So Alex just outside really making it worse, because he didn't put out there that he's living in an apartment with the girl and everything. Mind you, you telling your wife this, right? They got a whole house together. And he's telling her, you might well sell the house. I will do this, that, and the third, because I'm going to be with my child's mom.
You got some technical difficulties.
Especially finding things out, come on now, in front of the family like that is so embarrassing. Lord have mercy, God.
You ain't got that.
So ended up, they got in a car together and they dipped off. He was like, this is who I want to be with. This is who I am going to be with. Baby, my heart would have sunk. I guess auntie, I don't know, auntie, you probably bit off a little bit more than you could chew messing with that girl all the time, because what? Like, everybody knew that auntie was getting cheated on, except her. That's just like saying a fish can't see the water that they're swimming in. Sweetheart, you should have known this was coming. I guess she just didn't want it to come, which is understandable. That's your husband. But baby, at this point, let him go. All right, y'all, that's all the tea that I have today. Make sure y'all tune in to 2 Minute Hats, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. sharp. And don't forget to stay tuned for your girl, Queen Watkins. Clock that tea. Y'all have a blessed day. Bye.
Wow.
I was told I was living myself too, because I was she said auntie as well, Monica.
Yeah,
So
she slipped up. She was saying the auntie husband, but she just said auntie, but she just left out the husband. I knew where she was going, but it's still.
she always kind of like coincide what we be talking about, because these are the things to consider when you talking about you want to have 2 or 3 wives. Because these folks so dramaristic now, if that's a word.
Yeah, and the crazy part is, she was messing with a younger dude too. So it was like they both was in a polygamy relationship, and then they ain't know it.
Yeah, that's what Miss Van Zella was talking about.
Yeah. soul tie when you are jumping from person to person.
Yeah,
Let me ask
soul
you a question
tie.
with that soul tie. Oh, I don't know. We about to end,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but that soul
David
tie.
says,
Yeah.
I asked one of these questions if the house was on fire and you a daddy's girl and your dad is there or your husband, who you saving? Ooh. I'm saving my wife. You know, I'm gonna try to save everybody, but my wife come first.
Mhm.
That's how that's supposed to go.
And Mom said I was so confused. I thought she said Denise was pregnant by the auntie. Yeah. So, man,
I thought the same, cuz
this has been a doozy.
this got to be a part 2. Gotta have
Yeah,
a
This will be. We running this back tomorrow. We in part 2 today, so we running it back again tomorrow, y'all. We're gonna do part 3 tomorrow.
You coming back on?
I hear
You
you.
coming
back on?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, we're gonna run it back
Happy.
again, part 3, because I got some stuff, man, that I gotta read and share that we didn't get to
Okay.
about these poly relationships and sex and stuff like that. And so we're gonna run it back again tomorrow, man. And look, this is the thing, y'all. And let me go and put this disclaimer out there. Lavelle and I are not trying to sell y'all on poly relationships. So don't y'all say
Me either.
that's what we doing.
No, by no means. We just trying to get and like the scripture says, in all thine ways, get an
Understand. As a matter of fact, Lavelle would be the first to tell you that when we first started this podcast, I wouldn't even talk about certain subjects. He would tell you. And if it wasn't for him saying, Tony, it's people struggling in their marriage and relationship because of this, because people are not talking about sex. And if we can't talk about it, and we can't talk, and I was like, you're absolutely right. And the inboxes I've got from people saying, man, y'all done help me, because this is something I ain't even know how to talk about to my girl about, or I know how to talk about to my guy about. Yes, most certainly. All right, man, we're gonna run it back again tomorrow. Y'all make sure y'all continue to give, man. We're approaching our deadline of May 31st to be able to send this family of 6, this mother and her 5 children, not just a little quick weekend getaway somewhere where they can just enjoy themselves for the weekend together as a family. And we appreciate all the support that you guys do. You can give at Cash App 2 Men in Hats 2024 $2 Men in Hats 2024. You'll see the 2 Men in Hat logo. If you don't see the 2 Men in Hat logo, don't you give to it. Don't you give to it. And what we're gonna do, if you give a donation of $25 or more, we're gonna make sure that you get a hat, a t-shirt, a coffee mug, or a tumbler or something while supplies last. And Marcus will tell you, I'm true to it, ain't it? Marcus donated.
I'm actually looking at the one you got on. I like that, Tony. That's nice.
Yeah. So and why supplies last, man. You give, I'm gonna run it to you, man. So let's talk about it. Make sure you give with purpose and passion, man. Give attention with purpose and passion. We want to gap it out, man. Everything that you do, give attention with purpose and passion, man. Come on, Lavelle, run it to us.
I'm gonna ask Marcus to give us a prayer and close us out. He sounds like he got a good praying voice.
Okay, Father, we come to you, Lord, in the name of Jesus. Just want to say thank you. And God, we also, too, I just want to emphasize, like Tony said, Father, that we are here to improve relationships, not divide. And we asking that you to come on in and for you to have your way with every situation. Let their communication be open and love to flow, God. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen, man. We'll see y'all in the morning, same bad time.
Same bad place.
2 Men in Hats.
Yes, sir. See y'all.
It's the 2 Men in Hats podcast with your hosts with the most, Tony and Lavelle, every morning from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. We also have Queen Watkins with Clock Dead. Tune in with us and have a great time. Let's talk about it right here. 2 Men in Hats podcast.